Welcome, 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 family, to another book series. And we are finishing up The Intuitionist. Well, we're not finishing up, but we're continuing on with The Intuitionist and also Mansa Musa. So, All right, family, I'm back. Let's get into this, finishing up the story. The Intuitionist. All right. Now we left off with Lily Mae. And as we know, she is so used to living in her one room little closet, they say. And she is being serviced and she is being taken care of in the home of an intuitionist who has passed away and left the place that he stays in on campus with his concubine, I would say. I guess that's what she seems to think. This woman was a lover. Of the what's his name? But they're hot on the case to find out just what made the elevator dysfunction after Lily Mae inspected it. So let's continue on into this story. The distance which separated the different nations are rapidly vanishing with the achievements of modern invention. We can traverse them with incredible speed. The publicity of the present day causes that no sooner, is a discovery or an invention made than it is already improved upon and surpassed by competing efforts. The products of all the quarters of the globe are placed at our disposal today, and we have only to choose which is the best and cheapest for our purpose. And the powers of production are entrusted to the stimulus of competition and capital. Ladies and gentlemen, the exhibition of 1853 is to give us a true test and a living picture of development at which the whole of mankind has arrived, and a new starting point from which all the nations will be able to direct their further excursions. The monkey in the sable cape picks a pocket. That first night, the man attempts to kill himself and does not succeed. It is merely one act of many in the great hall. One rough stone among all the gathered jewels of the world. Alicia Graves Otis stands on the elevator platform. No one has seen his act before, and after all have seen this day, there is little enthusiasm in the Crystal Palace for the unassuming gentleman. Despite his promises of the future, he is a slender, middle-aged man in a herringbone frock coat. His right hand strokes a white vest. If the assembled stop to see the act, it is most probably because of exhaustion. Exhaustion. The toll of a lifetime's work of exotic sights crammed into one glorious day in the swamp heat in the palace. only now receding with the evening. And there's nothing new about freight elevators except perhaps to some of the country yokels, but not to the city folk. The platform rises 30 feet into the air, grasping for the glass dome above that is black with night. They are drawn from the Persian tapestries and the Egyptian scarabs. Summoned from the Ethiopian pots to Mr. Otis, the assembled in the great hall come and stare at the platform, and the man and the ratchet rails. They want the future after all. Please watch carefully, Mr. Otis says. He holds a saw in the air, a gold crescent in the lamplight, and begins to sever the rope holding him in the air. As the fame of his act grows over the next few weeks and months, the Crystal Palace will never again be as quiet as it is now. The first time is the best time. It is quiet. The rope dances in the air as the final strands give. The platform falls eternally for a foot or two before the old wagon spring underneath the platform releases and catches in the ratchets of the guardrails. The people in the exhibition still have a roar in them, even after all they have seen this day. A safety elevator. Verticality is not far off now. The true cities, the first elevation has begun. Mr. Elisha Otis removes his top hat with a practiced flourish and says, "All safe, gentlemen, all safe." The chauffeur does not speak. Hold on. Let me share this. Okay. The chauffeur does not speak. He drives, spinning the steering wheel with the palms of his hands. Minute grace of a painter. I should say, a minute grace of a painter. I'm sorry. He makes short, careful strokes, never to extravagate or to miserably or too miserably. He has a small red cut on his neck, where the barber nicked him. As the black Buick squeezes through the bars of the city towards the Institute for Vertical Transport, Lily Mae thinks back to what Mr. Reed said. He said, "Perhaps you are the perfect person to talk to her. She won't talk to us." Lily Mae Watson is colored. Marie Claire Rogers is colored. The rifles she holds contain paper of different shapes, grades, and thickness. Some of the words are handwritten. Some have been imprinted by a typewriter. The one on top is Marie Claire's Rogers' application for employment as a maid with Smart Cleaning Corporation. She was 45 years of age when she applied, had 2 children, had been widowed. The application lists were where she had worked previously. Apparently, she spent most of her life picking up after other people and was very experienced in this line of work, tending to messes. One of her former employers endorses her talents in letter of reference, describing her as obedient, quiet, and docile. Another document, paper-clipped to the application and inked with the Smart Cleaning corporate logo, relates Mrs. Rogers' 6 months assignment to the McCaffrey household. Her term were passed without incident. Mr. Rogers' work was characterized by Mr. and Mrs. James McCaffrey as efficient and careful. The McCaffreys moved to a cheerier climes, according to the Smart Cleaning Corporation records, and Mr. Rogers was reassigned to one of their regular clients. The Institute for Vertical Transport, Lily May recognizes James Fulton's signature at the foot of an employee evaluation form, dated a year after her reassignment to the faculty house of the Institute. get back started. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be here very long or any more longer than what I've already been here. But we are going to look at Mansa Musa in a few minutes after I finish reading some more of this. Ink identical to that of his signature is observable in small boxes above, where the ink has been used to form X's in a column of boxes that indicate excellent, except for the one box in the fair column regarding a question about punctuality. The date on the form tells Lily May that the Fulton had just resigned from the guild chair to murmurs, a varied column from the larger elevator inspector industry, to become the dean of the institute, the final stage of his career. He'd stolen all of the plums. There was nowhere else to go. The institute letterhead is more distinguished and staid than the the ersatz antiquation of smart cleaning company stationery. Rarefied austerity appropriate to a place of higher learning. The document Lily May holds is addressed to the Institute's board of directors, and the emotional tenor of the words, the unmodulated panic, provides an intriguing contrast to the serenity of the Institute crest atop the page. The letter urges swift action regarding Fulton's eccentric behavior, eccentric being a word Lily May notes dryly that white people use to describe crazy white people of stature. Detailed below, Lily May has heard most of the stories before. The quick rages, the sudden crying fit in the middle of groundbreaking ceremonies for the new engineering wing. But most of the outrageous acts she reads about now are new to her. White people cover their own. Fulton's behavior does not make her reconsider the father of her faith. Lily May does not expect human beings to conduct themselves in any other manner but how they truly are, which is weak. The next document she finds is no real revelation. Either Fulton has acceded to the board of directors, the anonymous secretary reports, with much more enthusiasm than she presents in his first document, and decided to resign. He has accepted our offer of allowing him to retain his faculty housing, as well as the proviso that a caretaker move in with him. The particular piece of paper, which shakes with the Buick's velocity, not everything is within the chauffeur's control, goes on to describe Fulton's rejection of all caretakers the Institute proposed, or nannies as he referred to the pageant of efficient taskmasters who essayed his front door. The woman he wanted was the housekeeper, Marie Claire Rogers, no one else. The secretary is happy to report that Mrs. Rogers agreed, and will move into the old servants' quarters on the first floor the second week of the next month. Congratulations, gentlemen, Lily May says to herself. Lily May and the house chauffeur, Sven, are well onto the chartered suburbia, which has been overgrown with king-size discount emporiums. and family restaurants catering to the primary color crowd. Since the last time she was out here, it is easier to breathe than in the city. There's less to see. She looks back down at the next piece of paper, an old Lift magazine article Lily May read when it first appeared. The sheets are limp and glossy, thin as a breeze. The trial is over. The judge has decided Marie Claire Rogers must relinquish any of Fulton's papers in her possession to the Institute for Vertical Transport. According to the Lyft reporter, whose choice of adjectives reveals him to be an Institute ally, Ali. When Fulton knew he did not have long to live, he bartered his personal papers for assurance that Mrs. Marie Claire Rogers could live in his campus house for as long as she saw fit. Needless to say, the Institute had already believed that they would get Fulton's papers once he died, have already constructed the necessary nooks. This unexpected stipulation was just a gnat's annoyance, or so they thought at first. Once Fulton's spirit departed, Mrs. Rogers tendered the papers in question, but not all. Obviously, some notebooks are missing. Ones from the final 2 years of Fulton's life, academia, posterity, an implacable engine of history, would not be denied. But Mrs. Rogers was quite adamant about holding on to the journals, and assailed her landlords with invective not often heard in Yankee climes by white ears, relenting in her insufferable behavior only when ordered to do so by the court of the Honorable James Madison. No relation, the article ends there, but Lily May adds a postscript to herself about the nature of evidence. It was obvious from the dates on the journals that some were still missing, but no one could prove that they were not. As Mrs. Rogers maintained, destroyed by Fulton in a wee hour, fit of hopelessness, or even stolen, the maid claimed that on the day of Fulton's funeral, the house had been broken into. Rumors have flourished in worse soil than this. The car is near the Institute. She knows this without looking up because the sounds of the city have finally fallen away. As if Lily May and her driver had discovered the one true valley, the gnashing and grinding of the city, the keen laughter that follows a fresh kill. Perfect place for a spa out here to urge one's self back into health. Gather arms for social world. The final contents of the are the handwritten notes of one Martin Sullivan, the Intuitionist acolyte, acolyte, acolyte at the acolyte at the Institute. Subject slams door in my face, insults my mother. Subject catches me sneaking in through the kitchen window and stabs me in the hand with a meat thermometer. Subject sees me hiding behind a tree and begins to approach menacingly. I decide to leave the perimeter. Martin Sullivan goes on to the catalog the contents of a garbage pail collected as evidence 1 week earlier, primarily food related waste. Sullivan notes with approximately 10% paper reviews, 2 false starts of what appears to be a personal letter to someone named Aunt Ida, and so on. One item looked promising, a copy of Quickie's weekly crossword with 2/3 of the puzzles attempted to verify varying degrees of completeness and accuracy. But despite my best efforts, I could not find any hidden messages or other concealed meanings in the puzzles. That's it. She's the next one up. The next hassle for an old woman. It has been a long time since she had been here. So long that her initial reaction is not of routine, but of first impressions. She remembers entering the wide black gates of the Institute for the first time, her father's hands on the wheel. She wonders again if news of the accident has reached her parents. It's, if the reports contain her name, another thought. There is a file on her accumulating somewhere now, like the one she holds in her lap, an accretion of falsehoods. She is not like the others who have come to interrogate and nag Marie Claire Rogers. Lily Mae has come to clear her name at any cost. Mr. Reed told her she refuses to talk to us. Perhaps you're the perfect one to talk to her. You're both colored. Okay. From The Theoretical Elevators, Volume 2 by James Fulton. To believe in silence, as we did when we lived in bubbles, sentient insofar as we knew it was warm. Silence provided the warmth, the womb. Ants have it easy for speaking in chemicals, food, flight, follow, nouns and verbs only, and never in concert. There are no mistakes, for there is no sentence, save the one nature imposes, mortality. You are standing on a train platform, a fear of missing the train, a slavery to time, has provided 10 minutes before the train leaves. There is so much you have never said to your companion, and so little time to articulate it. The years have accreted around. Simple words, and there would have been ample time to speak them had not in years have not the years intervened and secreted them. The conductor paces up and down the platform and wonders why you do not speak. You are blight on his platform and timetable. Speak. Find the words. The train is warming towards departure. You cannot find the words. The words will not allow you to find them in time for the departure. Nothing is allowed to pass between you and your companion. It is late. A seat awaits. That the words are simple and true is only half the battle. The train is leaving. The train is always leaving, and you have not found your words. Remember the train and the thing between you and your words, An elevator is a train. The perfect train terminates at heaven. The perfect elevator waits while its human freight tries to grab through the muck and find the words. In the black box, this messy business of human communication is reduced to excreted chemicals, understood by the soul's receptors, and translated into true speech. Okay. No caramel soda, no prune juice, and definitely no coffee. Pompey won't drink anything darker than his skin, for fear of becoming darker than he already is, as if his skin were a stain that could worsen, steep, and saturate into hell's black. They sent Pompey to sabotage the elevator stack in the Fanny Briggs building. Lily Mae is sure of that. It would have appeased their screwed sense of harmony to pit their two colors against each other, dogs in a fighting pit. Pompey would have jumped at the chance. White, foamy lava smeared across his cheeks. Didn't he say something to that effect when they were in O'Connor's just after the crash? When Lily Mae crouched against the wall like a thief. She's finally got what's been coming to her. Something like that. Pompey in his too small beige suit baller hat tilted, mischievous in the machine room. Okay, we will continue off on that one, and we're going to now, and plus I have some other things to talk about. So we'll go briefly over Mansa Musa next, but we'll start tomorrow morning. I think I scheduled for tomorrow on this, on the rest of this. And it'll be good. Okay. Hey, welcome, God Nollywood. Gotta have that water. Okay, now we're going into Mansa Musa. And then we'll be getting back into our reality, and I will be discussing some little bit Russia information that I got from another channel that I would love to share. I gotta make some time here because I have to be going in a few. Okay, chapter 1, the forefathers of Mansa Musa. I have the Mohawk. I don't want to be disrespectful to the Mohican Indians, but there is a tribe in Africa called the Mandinka warriors. They're in the west coast of Africa in the country of Mali. I was reading National Geographic magazine back in 1977, and I saw the warrior standing there with his spear and his beads around the neck and whatnot, and the stuff on his ankles. That was what gave me the idea. I said, wow, let me bring respect to them. So basically what I wear is called a Mandinka cut. Mr. T. That's Mr. T. From the very beginning of recorded history, the African continent has always been held as a place of mystery and wonder. The prospect of obtaining wondrous wealth in the form of Africa's sub-Saharan gold deposits has long brought various parties from far and wide. As early as 400 CE, local African kingdoms found themselves in a power struggle over who would control this wealth. And by around 800 CE, it was the kingdom of Ghana. Songhai, also sometimes spelled as Songhai, and Mali in a particular that began to rule the region. Of these kingdoms, Ghana began to dominate early on with the Kingdom of Mali as a client state. When the Kingdom of Ghana went into decline, Mali became the dominant player in the region. Mali then reached empire status in the 900s, and it would become its most powerful during the 1200s, by which time it had supplanted the Kingdom of Ghana entirely. During Mali's reign as the greatest empire of West Africa, one of the most prominent rulers was a man named Sundiata Sundiata Kita, also sometimes called Marie Diate, Marie Jetta, or Marie Jette. Most of what we know of Sundiata, Sundiata Akita comes down to us through oral history, which has been passed down from one generation to the next. The purveyors of this oral history belong to a specialized group of Mali storytellers called the griots. It was the griots who were charged with committing important historical events to memory, and also typically served as advisors to their rulers. According to the griot lore, Sundiata was the son of Princess Songon Kande and King Nar Makan Khatnat. The griot lore records that both Sundiata and his mother Kande were cruelly mocked and ridiculed by their peers. Songlong was apparently the object of ridicule because of his appearance. She actually described as being an ugly hunchback and huge eyeballs that bulged out of her head. The griot lore passed down to us also contends that Songlong was a powerful sorceress who could shapeshift into animal forms. As the story goes, when she grew weary of being a hunchback woman, she would transform into a hunchback buffalo of all things. Another version of the tale says the Songlo actually became cursed after she killed her sister in a fit of rage. At any rate, if Songlo was supposedly so horrible, frightening, and downright atrocious, one might naturally wonder why did King Nair Magan Connate marry her? Exactly. The reason was quite simple. Nair Magan Connate, okay, I'm just going to call him Connate, own soothsayers foretold that if he married an ugly woman, she would give birth to a powerful king. And following this lead, Nair McCain Connect set about searching. Ooh, set about. Hold on. Set about searching. Let me drink some water real quick. Hmm. He set about searching for the ugly woman that his diviners had foretold. He was later convinced that it was none other than Songlar Kunde, as she fit that description. Having such a reputation was certainly not flattering, to say the least, but Songlar Kunde, despite her rough physical appearance, seemed to have some level of at least cautious respect from the masses. She was, after all, said to be a powerful sorceress. Having said that, most did not really want to get on her bedside, lest she cast some sort of spell on them. Here, I have a question. I have a question. Okay, so she can cast spells, and someone cast a spell on her. So she had a spell cast on her, but she can cast spells. Couldn't she cast a spell to get the spell off of her? It seems like that would work like that. Yeah, it seems like that would work like that. Okay. So no one wanted to bother her because they were afraid that she might cast a spell. Okay, but if Nair Magan Connates expected her to birth a child who would jump up out of the cradle as someone clearly distinct for future greatness, he would be sorely disappointed. The pregnancy was apparently a difficult one, and it is said to have lasted as usually long amount of time. Some griot lore, in fact, speak of Songolon for being pregnant for over a year. Whatever the case may be, when Songolon finally gave birth to Sundiate, it was clear that he would have a challenging existence, as Sundiate was seemingly dealt a difficult hand in life due to a childhood illness that left him crippled and unable to walk without assistance. There was no such thing as a political correctness in those days. And according to Griot oral testimony, Sundiate was mercilessly teased over his disability. In fact, it seemed that the people came to believe that Sundiate deserved the affliction due to his mother's own dark magic, and they assumed the child was essentially cursed. The idea that those with deformities and disabilities are cursed is sadly a long running theme in many West African cultures to this very day. You can find villages in Mali where children suffering from birth defects, such as a cleft lips, are routinely mocked and are shunned by those who feel it was the hand of fate or a witch who cleft their lip rather than mere genetic hapstance. It goes without saying that such harsh treatment would be devastating for any child wishing to grow up and do something productive in their life, let alone somebody become a great leader. And as it pertains to Sundiate, the griots are quite clear that Sundiate's neighbors really did believe that there was something terribly wrong with him. In fact, they not only believed it, but also resented him for it. This feeling of resentment was then reinforced after Songlan gave birth to Sundiate's little sister, Colon Khan. That is a funny name. I cannot, for the life of me, family. And his little brother, Bori. Now, I like that name, Bori, who both apparently turned out healthy and robust, while Sundiate remained severely challenged. To resent a child for birth defects he had no control over seems rather despicable, especially from today's viewpoint. But this is apparently what happens. Nevertheless, Ndiete used the mockery that he was bombarded with to encourage himself. And one day, out of sheer determination, he suddenly rose to his feet and forced himself to walk. The villagers viewed his happenstance as nothing short of a miraculous sign. From this day forward, rather than mocking him, Sundiate became a well-respected member of the community. For a time, it seemed that the hardship of Sundiate's past was behind him. But when his father, Nair Konet, abruptly passed away, the young man's life would take another sharp turn. After the passing of his father, Sundiate's political opponents began to plot and scheme for the throne. Soon he and his family were once again the targets of the malicious abuse. Things got so bad that Songla Kunde took Sundiate and his siblings and fled to the country. So Golan, so Golan, no, so Golan basically grabbed her kids, had them carry whatever they could on their backs, and ran. This led to an exodus through many regions of what was the, the Ghana Empire. In their quest for safe asylum, they eventually made their way to a place called Mimra, whose king finally granted them the safety and security that they sought. The king of Mima is said to have become quite close to Sundiate during his stay, and he came to see great potential in the young prince. Eventually, the king decided to offer Sundiate a job. He made Sundiate a royal official in his realm. And while Sundiate was working in this capacity for the king of Mima, word was sent that the Mandinka people of Mali had been defeated by Kingdom of Soso. Emissaries were sent, hoping that Sundiate, whom some had previously prophesied would be a great leader, would come and rescue them. Belief is indeed a powerful thing. Sundiate's deceased father had died still believing the promise of his soothsayers, that his son Sundiate was destined for great things in society, that Sundiate came from the proclamations of those perceived to be prophets were considered sacrosanct and beyond dispute. Thus, Sundiate's fellow countrymen began to believe in the fate that had been prophesied for Sundiate as well. It is indeed rather ironic that the man whom many rejected and was driven out of his own country would have been beseeched in such a manner when the chips were down. But according to the griot lore, this is precisely what happened. Sundiate could have simply ignored those who called for his aid and lived quite happily in the courts of the king of Mima. By this time, his mother, Sogolon, perished. It is not entirely clear how she died, but it seems to have been a natural causes during their stay at the Mima court. At any rate, her passing potentially could have had the effect of erasing any last connections her adult son may have had to his ancestral homeland. Why should he rush in and help those who had been so cruel to him and his family? Was the pool of his prophesied greatness really enough to make him return to such a hateful place? But Sundiate was not one of to hold petty grievances. An ancestral fealty ran deep within him. Feeling the call of destiny, he agreed to liberate those he still considered to be his people. Sundiate was able to cobble together an army courtesy of Mima King. And with these troops, he launched his liberation campaign of Mali. These troops then hooked up with the remaining independent warlords of Mali to root out the Soso conquerors. The Soso were ultimately destroyed at the Battle of Karina, an engagement that took place in the Koulikora region of Mali. And as a result, there's a lot of information in this book. As a result, Sundiate became the first emperor of Mansa of the Mali Empire. The actual battle itself is believed to have taken place sometime around the year 1230 CE. Although the details are rather scant, the Battle of Corina was said to have been a cataclysmic event in which two powerful armies relentlessly smashed into each other. It is said that during this conflict, Sundiate managed to kill Sumanguru Kante, the Soso king himself, with a poison-tipped arrow. Some versions of the story, however, claim that after Sundiate discovered that Sumanguru's spirit animal was a rooster, he fixed a cock's spur to his arrow and fired it at Sumanguru. Legend tells that the brave Sundiate attacked the bird's claw foot to the end of an arrow, pulled back his bow, and sent the improvised missile hurling towards Samanguru. The arrow itself did not do much damage. All this clawed around arrow did was nick the warlord. But supposedly it knocked down the magical protective shield that had heretofore kept him from harm. According to his version of the story, Manguru, who was an accomplished sorcerer, was virtually invulnerable in the battle until Sundiate managed to discover this one chink in his spiritual armor. After this, it is suggested that Manguru was either killed or was otherwise somehow defeated. Some versions suggest he was even magically turned to stone. Yes, Griot Lord insists that both sides made great use of magic and witchcraft against their enemy. Sundiate was supposedly the son of a sorceress, sorceress. So it would have only seemed fitting for such dark arts to have been used. Such things are no doubt hard for a modern reader to believe, but the mention of wizardry and witchcraft serves as a good demonstration of what the belief system were in those days. This was, of course, before Islam, before the religion of the land, or at least the ruling classes. Prior to Islam, most people in the region practiced ancestry shamanism. Okay, we're going to cut it off there. We're going to look at some interesting magic that's going on here in our modern day time in Russia and the connection to our ancestors and all that we see. Okay, and understand or know. So here we go. I'm going to share this video with you guys. Let me get it here real quick because I gotta go. But I'm going to share this video with you guys. Let me go to my history here. Okay, what are they talking about? What are they talking about? Okay, here we go.
Thousands of people are reversing their type 2 diabetes with this 6-second method from the comfort of their own homes. Most people continue to take blood sugar medications but
the Soviet Union has its own variety of Men in Black, an organization that investigated cases related to visits to Earth by aliens and UFOs. However, unlike Hollywood, the agents were not secret but quite official, called the Commission on Anomalous Phenomena of the Russian Geographical Society of the Soviet and later Russian Academy of Sciences. And instead of fantastic technology as in each individual case, they relied on common sense, rationality, and a scientific approach. We want to remind you that here we're not speaking about the operations of the top secret Soviet military/academic UFO research program called Sietka. It had other names too during its existence 13 years after it officially ended. We described its work and discoveries known to us and other civilian researchers, and today we want again to look at a different entity and provide more details. Despite all ostentatious materialism, interest in the paranormal phenomena in the USSR was very strong. So back in the 1970s under Brezhnev, the Commission on Anomalous Phenomena came to be in Leningrad, and it was on the basis of the Russian Geographical Society. The Commission areas of interest included everything that could not be explained by traditional science, from UFOs to poltergeists. This Commission on Anomalous Phenomena of the Russian Geographical Society of the Soviet Academy of Sciences existed between 1980 and 2014. We've been in open contact with some Soviet ufologists since 1991 and in other types of contact before, so we knew about this commission and later we became acquainted with some of its members. The Commission on Anomalous Phenomena of the Russian Geographical Society was organized in 1980 by the efforts of enthusiasts, researchers of unidentified flying objects, poltergeist and other anomalous phenomena in the environment. The Commission conducted research in the following areas: the history of civilization and polio-context, better known to the West as ancient alien hypothesis. Soviet scientists and researchers had been investigating this hypothesis well before anyone outside the Soviet borders. Also problems of astronomy and astrophysics and anomalous phenomena. Interviewing eyewitnesses of anomalous phenomena and their study, they were working to create a so-called systemization to work out the process of how to do it properly. They were also conducting research on bioenergetic or bioenergetic aspects of the issue or problem of anomalous phenomena. History, religion, and the problem of anomalous phenomenon, military aspects of the UFO problem, and so on. After more than 30 years' research activities in the Commission on Anomalous Phenomena, it had acquired experience study, first of all of unidentified flying objects. It created an archive of observations of anomalous phenomena. This is like paranormal phenomena in English. But Russians use that word. They developed techniques of questioning witnesses and criteria for the reliability of the information. The Commission had conducted instrumental studies of the landings of UFOs in various regions and using various devices primarily in northwest Russia. And it also developed a methodology of research, and there has been philosophical evaluation of the achieved results. The Commission consisted mainly of military people, and almost all with high ranks, and that's according to the Russian ufologist and former chairman of the Leningrad Commission, Mikhail Gerstein. We've known of Mikhail now for over 20 years, and we believe that he is the best UFO researcher in Russia today. Mikhail mentioned in an interview with Russian media that the activities of the Commission, associates or members, were not exactly classified. Rather, it's simply all this activity was not brought to the attention of the general public in the Soviet Union. The meetings were closed to foreign participants in the Soviet Union, and the reports were often stamped with a signature stamp saying for office use only. Soviet and later Russian scientists, academics, professors, and candidates of sciences also worked as part of the commission. For almost 30 years, they had conducted several hundred expeditions and interviewed probably thousands of eyewitnesses, said Gerstein. 9 times out of 10, there was nothing really strange about their stories. People could mistake anything for a UFO, from an aeroplane flying with its lights on to planet Venus, but still, it was always the 1 in 10 lucky cases, and sometimes it happens so the impression of an encounter with the unknown redeem everything, and then some. For example, in the years 1989 to 1993, in a district of Leningrad, in a village, people encountered huge 2 and sometimes 3 meter tall dark figures without faces. All the eyewitnesses said that the figures were moving, either walking, but as if their legs didn't bend at the knees, or they were floating in the air. Those aliens showed no hostility to humans. As a rule, they were just nearby humans. During a 5-year period, he'd said that they'd maybe 8 or 10 reports of a meeting with them, and from people who were not related to each other in any way, and they didn't know each other at all. According to Mikhail, one of the eyewitnesses saw this creature come out of a flying saucer that landed on a vacant lot near the village. So Gerstein went to the place himself. He traveled there, he followed the route where the black or dark figures were most often seen, and tried to find a tree or a bush or some pipe in the dark. Could have been mistaken for a human silhouette outline, but he didn't find anything. Mikhail is a very tenacious researcher and also knows firsthand about these so-called extraterrestrial implants, foreign objects that were inexplicably found in human bodies. One scientist injured his hand at the Dachau country home, and he went for an X-ray, and a foreign body was found in his hand. The doctor thought it was a fragment from some mine or shell. However, it turned out that no mines or shells were near the scientist, of course, and nothing had exploded recently or at any time. It didn't look like a shard, but rather a metal seed, smooth and rounded at the edges. According to Gerstein, such stories have been found in the media for at least the last few decades. Almost people who talk about the phenomenon have experienced blackouts. Many years before all of these events, a scientist would...
I'm with Aura, and today I'm guessing people's passwords in 8 seconds or less. It looks like your password is...
was traveling on a train home, and at one point seemed to lose consciousness, fainted, and woke up 2 hours later in a completely different train carriage. His money and personal belongings were still with him. Nobody had taken anything. The Russian researcher mentioned that ufologists believe such implants can be used as striking devices. Unfortunately, that scientist categorically refused to remove the strange object from his hand, and soon after he passed away. Of course, the Commission's powers extended not only to Leningrad and the Leningrad region. For example, a report dated March 12, 1984, reported a case in a village in the Crimea, Soviet Ukraine. 3 boys found a 3-meter-long metal disc in a brushy hollow with a black spot in the center that looked like a rocket nozzle. Through the transparent lid, you could see the outlines of some devices and a flashing red light. The students tried to get closer, but a few meters away they seemed to run into an invisible wall. On the following evening, the boys told about finding 2 military cadets that they knew. The cadets, being Soviet people, conducted an educational conversation with the boys on the subject of materialism and racism and decided to visit the place where the alien object had been discovered. So the cadets did not find the device itself, but they found deep dents in the ground left by its telescopic legs, bushes broken by some massive object, and a circle of burned grass found exactly in the place where the nozzle had been located, so it immediately raised the skepticism of the cadets. The experts of the Commission on Anomalous Phenomena were dispatched to that location. They too couldn't find rational explanations for what they had observed, and therefore decided to consider the incident and manifestation of UFOs. There are many unknown strange things in the universe that are still incomprehensible to the human mind, but he is sure that sooner or later we will reach a level of development that will allow us, if not to study these things from beginning to end, at least be able to come closer to understanding them. Now let's listen to what another member of the Commission had to say. It was the Deputy Chairman of the Commission on Anomalous Phenomena of the Russian Geographical Society, Captain First Rank Soviet Navy Evgeny Litvinov. He was interviewed by Russian media back in 2010. His views may be controversial to some, but his knowledge of the Soviet Union and international underwater submersible objects phenomenon is phenomenal. We've studied his findings and his tremendous research work. Litvinov served with honor in the Soviet Navy. He served at secret facilities and aboard submarines and had good access years ago. Anyway, the captain was asked the following: "Why did you and your colleagues believe in aliens?" And he said that after comparing facts received from residents of different parts of our planet, all of them agree on one thing. All the people inhabiting the Earth in ancient times had so-called paleo contacts with representatives of more highly developed civilizations. There are more than 20,000 pieces of evidence of direct or indirect influence that aliens have had on our lives in our files. That was his response. So he was asked, "Where do you get your information from?" And he said, "From the press and from secret military archives." Sometimes we organized an exhibition in St. Petersburg. That's the name of Leningrad during the event, he said. Visitors would come up to us and tell us unique stories pertaining to contacts with aliens. People would like to believe that we are treated humanely, but we must face the truth, and here's what he stated. Analyzing the information we have accumulated only on contacts with extraterrestrials, we have 6,000 messages and more than 25,000 cases related to kidnapping. We have come to the conclusion that these civilizations somehow affect our lives are of 3 types. Loyal to us humans, about 20%, neutral, 60%, and aggressive, 20%. If we put the neutral closer to the aggressive, that is those that have some selfish interest in humanity. It turns out that humans should be afraid of 80% of aliens. And as for alien abductions, in many cases of such kidnappings or abductions, people reported that they had been thoroughly sanitized and medically examined. Perhaps this is necessary for the study of human species, but it is possible that some of their doctors zombify people or do worse. They insert chips, implants, for subsequent manipulation of human beings. Any civilization is interested in the presence of its agents on an alien planet. So he was asked if it turns out that any alien can do whatever they want with us, and there is no control over it. Litvinov replied that this was correct, but the Commission exists to gradually eliminate our illiteracy or relation to the representatives of other civilizations, and the Commission associates were always trying to develop at least some safety techniques. The Russian captain warned that first of all, people need to know if a ship or a vessel or an alien has manifested in front of you, you should not in any case scream or yell. All this according to the stories of people who've been in such situations or turned into numbness or amnesia for them.
Your what the hell moment. You're gonna have it. On the other side of this page, when you watch this video series built by me and the men here at Wake Up Warrior, you're gonna have that moment. It's gonna be a more than what the hell. It's gonna be what the You know, the craziest thing to watch men who have chosen to live lives so small and so far beyond the reality of what they are entitled to inside of their soul, but also what they are capable of. And then to watch them call that life. See, the challenge is who you surround yourself with, and the world and the environment that you have given yourself permission to live and exist in has taught you that what you are doing and how you are living is okay. This is the challenge. We surround ourselves not with people who drive us, people who command more from us, people who tolerate less from us. We tend to surround ourselves with people who just say it's okay. So I warn you, on this series, you're going to be triggered. You're not just going to be slightly triggered. I'm going to trigger the out of you. I'm going to trigger you so intensely watching this 5-part series by men just like you around the world, 55,000 men.
It is good if the memory loss is temporary, but it happens that uninvited guests can erase memories completely of people affected, including information about the name, place of residence, and professional skills. Secondly, contacts with alien is not welcome. The entire initiative should be as follows: only if they need to. They will come in contact with you, but if not, turn around and run away. When they try to talk to you, you must ask, who are you, and where are you from, and what you do? Why do you need me? Loyal aliens often respond kindly and tell you about their good mission. Aggressors can refuse to contact you, and they just leave. Thirdly, if you can, try not to think about bad things. The aliens are able to read human minds as thoughts are nothing but waves that are a means of communication for the entire universe. We think in images, and sometimes before we have formed a verbal version of it, we can also get an instant reaction from aliens. Also, these waves can transmit information to humans as if talking to humans in these same images, and humans can see them as if in a dream. Soviet cosmonauts were not afraid to speak out, and the incredible knowledge they possessed, like Pavlo Popovich, about ancient aliens operating on our Earth. Now, Litwina was asked on occasion, why can't the aliens train as humans? Why can't they raise us to their level? And he responded, perhaps we are as far away from them in development as the simplest insects are from us. Try explaining to an ant why you are moving its nest out of the way, or why you have killed half a dozen of his friends who tickled your heel when you were sitting by the fire. The ant will not understand you for sure. This is how the higher civilizations are. It's good if they're loyal, that is, they behave carefully with us. But there are aggressive and neutral ones, and Litwina reminded people that there are probably many more of them than the good ones. It doesn't bother them at all to crush humans like small insects. Their plans are unknown to us because they do not engage in conversations with people, but mainly use people for some research or introduction of their agents into terrestrial society. Probably loyal and aggressive civilizations are fighting for planet Earth at the highest level, according to him. Whoever wins will establish their own rules here. We have little information about who lives in what parts of the universe, so loyal aliens come to humans, according to Litwina, from the constellation of Canis Major and Taurus, and the neutral ones from the constellations of Reticulum Centauri, Cygnus, Libra, and Andromeda. And then, of course, there's the Orion constellation, and that's where the aggressors come from. Litwina was asked if you believed in the existence of your force, you should probably have been the first to establish contact with them. But he responded that he doesn't want to do that. If they had wanted to, they would have contacted us humans long ago. And in general practice, it shows that everyone who did establish such contact passed away. Despite his advanced age, Captain Litvinov did not want to go to the other world yet or to leave this planet. When some journalists in Russia try to make fun of the Russian Navy captain who doesn't shy away from his beliefs, they were told by representatives of the Society of the following: the Geographical Society is called to discuss all sorts of theories, even such fantastic ones as Litvinov's theories. If there are specialist scientists who can refute the theory of the members of the Commission on Anomalous Phenomena, the Russian Geographical Society is waiting for their letters and invites them to meetings that take place once a month according to the approved plan. That was years ago. The UFO research that had existed in the USSR had a tumultuous history. The Soviet research was unique due to the constraints of the totalitarian society, but there had been fascinating cases. Russian authors, books, and videos have done their best to help build bridges many years ago and introduce Western audiences to Soviet ufology. But they were shocked when certain individuals in the West immediately attacked their work. It was as if they were panicked about information that is being brought forth from the USSR or the former Soviet Union, because obviously there are people who don't want bridges to be built and information exchanged on a civilian level. A lot of what we've talked about today is in the past, now history. The USSR disintegrated, and new realities now exist where a unique country existed for almost 70 years, and that in turn, after another country, the Russian Empire, disintegrated after hundreds of years. But there is active research, for example, in Ukraine today, and that there are still civilian researchers in modern Russia, the younger generation, and as for military UFO research in modern Russia, we'll talk about it more some other time, and there is still more to bring into the very unique history of Soviet UFO research.
Interesting. Interesting. All right, family.
20 of the richest people in America made their fortunes focusing on a single stock.
Excuse me. So, our star family good old popcorn. So our star family, some of them can come down and naturally walk and live amongst us. And we never ever know. We never ever really know. Only by the deeds and what's been done. So with that said, family, true love, real peace, and the higher self within our soul. Always remember, peace